From Dusk Till Dawn was conceived by Robert Kurtzman, who hired Tarantino to write the script. Kurtzman had a short story about vampires that he had written himself, which he wanted to develop into a full-fledged script. So Quentin was given the responsibility of writing this very script. Universal Pictures initially considered the script Tarantino From Dusk Till Dawn as a sequel Tales from the Crypt, but eventually released another vampire movie, Tales from the Crypt Presents, Bordello of Blood. By the way, Tarantino himself was supposed to direct the film, but he decided not to sit in the director's chair in order to concentrate on the script and his acting.
I gave Robert my script to read, well, as always, because we are friends and all that. He read it and said, "Dude, this is awesome, so we're filming this tomorrow."
The picture we're doing is that there's no horror for the first half of the movie, so that you can really invest yourself with the characters and feel part of the movie before anything happens to them that you don't want to happen to them, so that you really, feel the horror a little bit more. A lot of horror films start delivering the horror too soon, and you don't really have any eyes into the picture. What this is enabling us to do is really get you to be a part of the picture before the horror element.
It's about an hour into the movie, all of a sudden, all these vampires show up in our film, and, the audience there's been no indication that that will happen at any point in the movie until they just, in a blink of an eye, show up, and then now they got to deal with it, all right? And so the audience is, completely caught unawares, what the hell is going on? Well, that's exactly what the characters are feeling. They weren't expecting to bump into vampires either.
The role of Seth Gecko could have gone to Tim Roth, John Travolta, Michael Madsen, Steve Buscemi, Christopher Walken. All the listed actors agreed to play this character, but were unable to do so due to being busy with other projects. Funny fact happened to Fred Williamson, former American football player nicknamed the Hammer, and also a producer of films about the oppression of black people. Hammer had 3 rules for filming movies, and for his participation, it was necessary to complete at least 2. First, he can't be killed in the movie. Second, he must win all the fights. And third, he gets the girl at the end of the movie. Tom Savini, who played the role of Sex Machine, ended up in the film because both Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino were fans of it almost since childhood, and it is noteworthy that initially in the script his description was more like just for Williamson's character, but when Savini received the script, he was interested in the Sex Machine because he had cooler lines and a cooler name. So in sending the video recording to Rodriguez, he decided to read out the Sex Machine's lines.
Hey, what's your name, girlie? Yeah, me? Sex Machine. Pleased to meet you, Kate. Let's go stake these sucker fuckers.
And the director liked them so much that in the end, the character was rewritten for him. Danny Trejo played one of the roles in the film. It is noteworthy that the names his characters in these films, Desperado and Spy Kids, associated with knives. Navajas in Desperado. In Spanish, Navajas means knives. In the tape From Dusk Till Dawn, they called him Razor Charlie. And in Spy Kids, Isidore Machete Cortez. Salma Hayek caught Quentin's eye after the film Desperado, where the Mexican beauty played together with Antonio Banderas. The role of the vampire stripper was written especially for her because she somehow helped Rodriguez and Tarantino when they were filming their segment of the anthology film for Rooms. On that shoot, urgently needed an actress to play a stripper on TV. And then they contacted Hayek on the day of the shoot. She agreed, and they were so impressed with her performance that they included the actress in their next project From Dusk Till Dawn, although Salma might not have starred in the film. Interesting fact, but the actress is really afraid of snakes and always refused to be near them on camera. Naturally, when she read the script, she knew that her phobia would prevent her from taking part, and she conveyed this message to the director. Then Robert Rodriguez made it clear to her that if she refused, Madonna would be happy to take the role. Hayek ended up spending 2 months with therapists to overcome your fear in front of animals.
It was an incredible experience. If Robert hadn't pushed me, I would have missed this chance.
Salma Hayek didn't have a choreographer for her dance. Rodriguez simply told her, "Feel the music and dance." And when the whole ensemble was assembled, it was time to start filming. IATSE attacked them, a union that protects the interests of cinema workers from the janitor to the director. IATSE were not thrilled that the film, with a rather impressive budget, filmed by a non-union crew. "Guys, you have a movie here that costs $19 million. What the hell is an independent film?" They asked legitimately, to which both Tarantino and Rodriguez wide-eyed spread their arms and said, "Listen, in that case the film will cost another $300,000. The situation was hanging in the air, and it got pretty heated, which in general did not prevent from starting filming. True Miramax Studios did agree to provide the film crew with medical assistance.
We have good news. Miramax confirmed that we have medical insurance for the whole group, for Drive as well, for everyone in general.
In the first version of the script, the entire Fuller family survived, and the Gecko brothers. However, Tarantino rewrote this part, thinking that the film would be more exciting if the main characters die in it. The film's title was borrowed from the signs of open-air cinemas. This sign "From Dusk Till Dawn" meant a non-stop nightly showing of the film. Also in Rodriguez's picture, contains many references to films intended for such cinemas. This phrase,
"No thanks, I already had a wife,"
is an improvisation by George Clooney, although Robert Rodriguez did not initially intend to include improvisation in the finished version of the film. However, after the studio added the episode to the film's trailer, the director had no choice but to add the phrase to the final cut. Originally, the sex machine was supposed to be a muscular guy with scars, wearing a leather biker vest, while Frost was a skinnier, more slippery type. However, in the finished film, the characters were swapped. In the scene where the sex machine hits everyone in a row when he is surrounded, Tom Savini has actually beaten up stuntmen and actors, including George Clooney. For the German dubbing, Clooney wanted a different actor to do the voice instead of his standard voice. Just the standard German dubbing was high, warm, calm and friendly, but George Clooney wanted something deeper, more menacing and scary, to make the character Seth Gecko look more serious and scary.
I saw George in Emergency Rome. He liked me, he played the hero very well. I believe his character. For us, he plays a completely opposite role. I suggested to him, on the contrary, to play the one who brings people to the ambulance.
Clooney's fee was $250,000. Richie's Broken Glasses. This is a tribute to the movie poster Straw Dogs. Hostage bank employee named Gloria Hill. This is Tarantino's real teacher in his acting skills, Brenda Hillhouse. Some of the growling sounds of a vampire dog, into which a sex machine turns, were published by the little son of Robert Rodriguez, who was just studying. One of the first scenes filmed was the explosion of a convenience store. Without the use of computer graphics, they built a real shop and filmed its explosion in one take, and the camera is the whole thing forgot to film, so due to a camera malfunction, this take had to be reshot again. Principal photography took place in California and Mexico. Although many scenes were filmed inside the pavilions, the Titty Twisted bar itself was specially built for the film, in the California desert near the ghost town of Calico, abandoned mining town. Initially, the idea to film a vampire bacchanalia, specifically in a bar, came because the directors decided to make fun of the moment when drunk men pick up pretty girls in bars who don't seem so pretty in the morning. This is exactly what the pretty strippers represent, turning into monsters one by one. On the very first day, while filming the episode of the heroes leaving the bar, the pyrotechnics were used unsuccessfully. The bar was badly burned down and had to be rebuilt, which immediately affected the delay of filming.
No, we weren't supposed to burn the facade down, no.
Cut! Cut! Cut him! Cut him!
Each filming location was carefully selected to convey the feeling of horror and tension as much as possible. On creating a Mayan-style bar, the director was greatly influenced by the film Apocalypse Now, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. There is a similar architecture of the temple in which Colonel Kurt created his sect, image of classic Mexican roadside bars mixed with temples for Mayan sacrifices, and became the prototype of the vampire lair. The bar itself was very briefly described in Tarantino's script without much detail. Therefore, the production designer Cecilia Montiel had to use all her skills and imagination to work out everything down to the smallest detail. Kurtzman and his team were able to work within a fairly tight deadline, with rather tight budgets. 90% of the monster sketches draw in KNB, and the rest Rodriguez drew himself, because he had the necessary experience, having worked in the past as a cartoonist. For example, the sketch for Tarantino's Vampire was drawn by Rodriguez. But one of the most interesting works of the director was the sketch of a vampire bitch. Robert said he came up with a practically harmless cartoon drawing, but when the specialists made a model, it was really creepy. It was exactly that level of disgusting which was required for the film.
Quentin wouldn't even come on set to look at it. He was too gross. He went, oh, no, it's horrible. I don't want to look at that. And everyone went, oh, it's sick. Like, where did that come from? We're like, Robert designed that. He gave us a little sketch, and then, you know, revealing hideous shark mouth. And then, of course, when Henrik walks and kind of does his sort of monster undulation, the mouth looks like it's opening and closing as it's walking.
In general, when working on a film, a huge number of effects were created, including masks, animatronics, individual makeup, artificial blood, pus, and other delights of horror. One of the creators said that on this shoot a record number of effects were created for the studio. In its entire work, their work was aimed at that, so that each character looks unique and matched the overall atmosphere of the film, creating a dark and unpleasant atmosphere. In order to create realistic masks, special plaster casts of the face were used. The head was completely filled with plaster, and only small holes remained for breathing. That's when it turned out that Salma Hayek also had claustrophobia. And she really didn't like this idea. Actress recalls it was like scuba diving. This became a real test for Salma. But it was all worth it, and the film turned out exactly as it was intended. Interesting fact is that it was Tarantino who insisted that only practical effects be used in the film to add some realism to it. However, by constantly spinning something unique, new, plausible, the group did not pay any attention to the fact that the budget had long since gotten out of control. And the film, instead of the $12 million budgeted for it, already costs 19. That's why in the last scenes in the bar, where people have already completely transformed into creatures, there was only enough money for 6 full suits. In some frames you can even notice it. The rest were already complemented by partial costumes or dolls, and a small part of the scenes was already drawn and added in post-production. Globally, the filming went smoothly, and practically without any incidents. Everyone minded their own business. Of course, for the most part the work on the site was clear, because Quentin and Robert complemented each other perfectly on the court, and always made concessions. And also because the studio completely trusted the creators, and there were no supervisors on the set, supervision, and trade unions. Filming was completed in '95, and the team started post-production. Installation according to the usual, already a diagram for yourself, based on previous films. Rodriguez took it himself. He not only assembled the film, but also worked on the sound effects. The time frame before the planned premiere was unrealistic, and therefore it was decided not to rush to do everything normally, and to postpone the premiere of the film to January. The film's budget was $19 million. But when it came out in January 1996, From Dusk Till Dawn did not become a box office hit. At the box office then reigned Jumanji and 12 Monkeys. And A Share Vampires got only a measly $25 million. In the end, the final part of production included scenes that took about 5 weeks to film. Because of this, the studio refused to create dozens of vampire makeups due to limited resources when the film was approaching its end. The whole bar was filled with transformed vampires. To create these monsters, KNB created only 6 suits, which were used again and again during the final battle. Rodriguez was so carried away by this scene that he filmed so much the material is like, it's a 3-hour epic. The film's producers in general, including Rodriguez's wife Elizabeth Avellin, supported his creative process. Miramax Studio gave the filmmakers complete freedom and rarely interfered with the process.
This is like the very first public screening this movie's ever had. All right? So I want us all to forget we're in this really nice place. All right, where you can do anything you want. You can yell at the screen, you can throw things, you can irritate your neighbor, you can nag, you can do anything you want. And the movie will bear it. It's that kind of movie, all right? It's just a laugh and scream and throw shit at the screen, and now it's From Dusk Till Dawn's time.
It should also be noted that before giving the picture, Tarantino thought out important details so that the film would not be given an 18 rating, which would have significantly complicated its release and distribution. In the film greatly shortened the scene of the vampire massacre, and they used not red, but green vampire blood, so that there would be fewer questions about the picture. The film didn't take off as Rodriguez and Tarantino planned, but became quite successful at the box office and quickly gained cult status thanks to its unique blend of genres and non-stop action. Reviews from critics were mixed. Some praised the film for its originality and boldness. Others criticized for excessive violence, simplicity of plot, and smashed the film to pieces, but despite this, the film quickly found its audience and was loved by the audience. The film did not receive any major awards, but its significance in the world of cinema is hard to overestimate. Also, From Dusk Till Dawn became an important milestone in the careers of both Rodriguez and Tarantino, and left an indelible mark on the history of cinema. Robert himself was pleased with the result. He noted, "Working on the film was an interesting and creative process for me. Collaboration with Tarantino also became important and inspiring." Rodriguez said that From Dusk Till Dawn became more than just a movie for him and an important part of his creative path, and he is glad that the audience appreciated work with dignity. From Dusk Till Dawn is a film that broke genre stereotypes and showed how can mix different genres of cinema in one project.